Hello, friend. This is Ryan Hicks of TalkToProfit.com. And for this Reseller Friday, I want to talk to you about some wisdom in your reselling business. Many people approach reselling because the barrier to entry is very, very low. You don't need to go take out small business administration loans and get a second mortgage on your house, or you don't have to do much. You just take something from around your house, list it. You don't need to buy a camera because you can use your phone. You don't have to buy any special equipment. You don't need to buy a printer to print labels because you can just generate a QR code when you get a sale. The post office or FedEx or UPS or whoever will print up the label for you. There's almost no cost to get started, and very little knowledge is needed just to get going. Obviously, there's a lot of knowledge needed to continue and grow and expand your business, but what often gets overlooked is that this is a business. That may seem obvious, but it isn't for many people, because they're thinking, well, if I'm going to learn about reselling, I need to go learn from this reseller over here. And that's true, of course. You want to learn and grow in your reselling business and learn from other resellers and the things they've learned. But it's very important to understand that you can learn from just other businesses in general. There's so much wisdom to be gained from learning about other businesses, how they do things, the way they approach customer service. All these things can translate over into your reselling business. Most of the aspects of the reselling business are just regular business principles. They're not some special thing that only applies to reselling. Obviously, the way you may source, the fact you're listing on a marketplace, there are obviously some variations there, but there are big retailers who sell on eBay, for example, and sell on other marketplaces, sell on Amazon. So it's not only resellers who are taking advantage of marketplaces and selling on them, but for your business, you need to understand that you can get wisdom from any business. I don't care if it's a guy selling sodas on the street corner, or if it's a guy at a Fortune 500 company who has hundreds of thousands of customers. You can learn from any business. And so I would recommend that you regularly are reading or listening to interviews with successful people who have done a lot, people who have really succeeded in business and life. Specifically business, because we're talking about your reselling business. Learn from them, learn their motives and how they did things and what they did over here and how they accomplished certain goals and how they addressed certain problems that arose. Because you'll start to notice patterns, and resellers don't seem to know these patterns, because I meet with people and I talk with people, and there's very much a generic avatar, I guess you'd call it, of a reseller. Generally not in shape, sometimes with a family, sometimes not, sometimes older, but there tends to be these issues I see arising over and over again. And I think some of this is because they don't understand the most successful business leaders in the world, not just necessarily resellers. The things they do, these people don't understand the value in them. So when I tell a reseller, you need to exercise every day, they look at me like I'm crazy. Well, I got to list stuff. Wouldn't I make more money if I listed stuff? And you would think that makes sense. And so maybe this is a little counterintuitive to average people thinking, but the reality is when you exercise, you have more energy throughout the day, and that 30 minutes or whatever you invested into exercise pays off in you being more productive throughout the day, you having more energy to get more done. So you're not like all the average resellers who are shrinking back, who are saying, well, I listed enough today, who aren't doing that extra listing, who are always making excuses, who are not going to the extra thrift store because they're tired. You won't be that kind of person because you will have some energy. Now, obviously, when you first get started, there's going to be a learning curve. You may feel worn out at first. Don't let your body trick you into getting to that lazy position you're always in and stopping the exercise. Continue with it. There's wisdom. And if you read almost any successful person today, they all have these exercise routines in the morning. They generally have meditation or prayer routines. Many of them read and they learn and they grow each and every day. And these are people at the highest levels of achievement, and they're still learning, and they're reading autobiographies, and they're learning about other people, and they're reading biographies, and they are watching interviews, and they are growing. And they are in a position where many people would have already long since stopped trying to grow, trying to improve, because they would already have just been resting on their laurels. They'd just be coasting by through life. I have billions of dollars. I don't need to do that. I can just lay back and do nothing. Now, if you just want to have a reselling business as a hobby, you're just selling a few things here and there, you don't care about making good profit and expanding into 6, 7, 8-figure businesses or more, then maybe this won't apply to you. But really it will, because if you do anything, don't you want to be the most successful you can be at it? And the time you do put into it, don't you want to do your best and be at the ultimate level you could possibly achieve in that endeavor when you put the time in? Of course you do. So exercise is very important. Learning is very important. You need to be growing and improving yourself and your character, because that all translates into your business. You know, you read a book like Sam Walton's Made in America, and you learn about how he treated customers, how he treated his employees and took them on as partners, saw them as associates instead of just mere employees. You can learn so much from these people that will absolutely impact your reselling business for the good. It will make you a better reseller. It will make you rise above, because the problem with so many people's reselling businesses is they don't really treat it like a business. So all these things they could be learning from these successful people in business, they're not learning them because they're busy listening to other resellers who aren't good either, who aren't doing their all, who aren't successful, and they're listening to them tell them all the mediocre and average things they're doing, and they're following that as a blueprint for how to live their lives and how to be a reseller, and it just leads to mediocrity. That should not be you. You should be a person who is growing in character, who is rising above. You don't want to be that bottom 99% of resellers who are average people. I have been reselling for decades. I'm not in that bottom 99%. I don't want to be in that 99%, because what they do is what average people do. They're mediocre. They're not getting enough in sales. They're not doing barely anything. They're always making excuses. They're always having this problem or that problem. They're always having to go on vacations or do. There's always excuses and whining and failure and misery. And that's not the way you want to live your life. You want to be the ultimate success that you could possibly be in your reselling business. And that, my friends, is going to require you to have some wisdom. It's going to require you to learn, not just from resellers, especially when most of the resellers out there are doing so average and so pitifully that you would never want to learn from them. Why would you want to imitate them in what they're doing? And that's not to criticize them, because maybe they're quite content doing what they're doing. But if you want to rise to a higher level, those are not the people you're going to be following. You don't want to be listening to them, because they don't know how to do it, and they'll never do it at the rate they're going. They're just content with being average. They're content with just enough. They're content with shrinking back. They're content with not doing more. And that should not be you, my friend. So you need to make sure you're accumulating more and more wisdom, and more importantly, applying it each and every day to your life, and growing and expanding. And you, my friend, will find that your reselling business grows as a result of you growing as a person. I pray this is a blessing for you. May God bless you richly.